Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar by Modulos. I'm Elena Maran, Global Head of Financial Services and Responsible AI, and I will be your host for today. Our webinar will be about the ISO 42001, the first auditable AI management system standard. And thanks to our experts who are joining me today, we are going to learn everything or almost everything we need to apply the standard and to get certified against it. So today I'm happy to have Andrea Basso, CTO of Mito Technology and an expert in standard, having participated to the effort of various standardization organizations, and Arman Iranfar was head of artificial intelligence in CertX, so it comes from the audit world. So during this webinar, we will have the possibility to ask questions. And for doing so, you can use the chat on LinkedIn at any time. I will be monitoring and leave space at the end of the webinar. But without further ado, let's leave the space to our amazing speakers for their own introduction. Andrea, you can start. The stage is yours.
Hi everyone, I'm Andrea Basso. I am active in several standardization bodies. I'm CTO of Mito Technology, and in particular, I'm active in IEEE, a couple of standards related to algorithmic bias and trustworthiness and security of LLM models. And more recently, also part of NIST ISIC that are, working groups focusing on similar terms, but on the other continent, I would say.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Arman, can you also share a couple of words about yourself?
Yes, with pleasure. My name is Arman Iranfar. I'm head of AI at CertX. CertX is an inspection and certification body based in Switzerland. I have a background in applied machine learning embedded systems, and since 4 years ago, I've been involved in AI trustworthiness from high-level standards that applies to organizations down to the process and product. In particular, I am a Swiss delegate at ISO subcommittee 42, which is dedicated to develop standards and norms for artificial intelligence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arman. So let's start with Andrea, who is going to provide us a more conceptual overview of what the ISO 42001 is about. So Andrea, can you provide us with an overview of the structure of the standard and in general explain what are the main objectives of an AI management system? Why do we even need it?
Sure. Let me see if I can put this on a slideshow mode so you could see better. So ISO 42001 is a spec that is relatively small, it's 54 pages, and is providing guidance on transparency, accountability, bias identification and mitigation, safety, and provide somehow, a systematic approach to identify, evaluate, and address risks associated to AI. I would say the key component, the key pillar of the spec are 6. There is a part that is really focused on the role of leadership and what the senior management need to do and need to dedicate toward the AI management systems. And in particular, from the top level, providing policies and the goals that are aligned with the organization strategic vision, but also, provide a lot of other components so that the AI management system is complete at 360 degrees. One important point is the second pillar is related to planning. That really focuses on the identification and the evaluation of risks and opportunity that AI provides, but that is not sufficient. The most important thing is to devise a strategy and being able to manage and be ready to manage potential risks. So having mitigation strategies. Of course, to make all this happening, it is important that the organization allocates the proper resources and support for the AI management system actually to live and prosper. And this implies, from training to awareness programs, to communication channels, to community development inside the company, so that there is a single voice that is really driving the AI component. And of course, then you have the people that is the actual actuators, the one that drive the process, make it working and make it economical and effective. So there is a need of defining, as any company defines, protocols and procedures, but they should be defined really with AI in mind. So for the development of AI, if you are an AI developer, in implementation, that implies also that if you buy an AI component, how you manage, how you implement in your own processes. And then in particular, the upkeep of AI system. There is a basic concept in AI that is somehow different, and ISO 42001, as well as the other standard underline, is that it's not that you do the effort once and you're done. This is a continuous effort. It's something that you need to account on, and you don't need to be scared, because with the proper procedure, you will be able to manage the risk. You will be able to have in place the proper processes to do the best you can do, in fact, and also, of course, have a profit out of these systems. And this brings me to the two other points that are evaluation of performance. This is very, very important to have a way of monitoring, measuring, and analyzing the performance of AI system, the consistency, and being able to do corrective measures are required. Look at what AI, OpenAI is implementing, Microsoft implementing, Google is implementing. Every time something happens, then they have in place procedures on how to react. So you don't be scared about that. It's something that is very, very manageable, but having it in place is essential to be able to operate in the AI, in the AI domain. And of course, and this also, you see, if you use ChatGPT, you see this continuously. There are new improvements, new features that are coming up. These are quite competitive area. So again, it's not that you develop the system and then that's it. There is a continual improvement for many reasons. It can be on one side, new features that get introduced, competition introduce new feature. So you need to be au pair at least, but also, the effectiveness, your data, the model may drift, right? May somehow have performances that are not always aligned with your changing audience. And then you need to, have a way of improving and keep up to date from this point of view. And so if you really understand these 6 pillars that are well explained in the spec, you actually are able to grasp at least the philosophy and what at high level need to be done to be able to run effectively an AI system. Moving to going a bit more in details on the different components, I would say there are 4 that you need to look at. That. First of all is how you integrate this management system in your existing organizational processes so that you can, be aligned with the standard. Then there is a second component that is related to risk assessment. And again, I'm stressing again the concept that this is not something that you do once a year. It's something that you do continuously. And you have also a dynamic way of managing potential risks and potential consequences. The other is the impact. Impact may change in time, understanding what can be the impact. Sometimes there are impacts that you couldn't really think about at the very beginning, but they're coming up, as you use the system, as you develop products. So that is also extremely important and need to be made systematic. And then, of course, data protection. This is, I think, there are already enough sensibility to that, and the security, right? You don't want to have your system to go south, so to start, saying things that it shouldn't say or do things that it shouldn't do. This is, I think, I'm more or less, covered what are the technical specification about that, as well as, the risk assessment. That is very important. There is another spec that is 5338 that goes in detail into that. The 4201 gives an overview on what you need to do. And finally, for data protection and security, I would say, if you are 27001 certified, you know what I'm talking about. I hope I was fast enough and clear enough for everyone. I try not to use too much technical terms, but that is the sense.
You were both fast and clear, Andrea.
Okay.
Thank you very much. It was very, very good overview. However, I'm hearing people saying, okay, there's so many standards out there. There's the 42001. There are standards from different organizations that govern AI and technology in general. So how does 42001 fits in the overall standard landscape? Can you give us an overview? I know you are an expert.
That is a question that would require an hour. And
try to keep it short and crisp.
More, let me show this map. That's true. There are many standards. This is only ISO, but consider that there are several organization bodies. I would say you should take care of 3 organization bodies: ISO, IEEE, and then CENS for all the European part. But as you see, there are many. We mentioned 4201, that is in the life cycle process. The 5338 also it's relevant, but there is one in particular related to the risk management that you have to deal with. Another set of specs that are relevant are use cases. If you want to get a sense on what are the use cases, how they're dealt, the 24030 is very very relevant. And that is not in this diagram is the 27563, I think, that actually deals with security and trustworthiness of the use cases treated in 24030. This is also very important. I hope you see my mouse, but the 23894 is the one on risk management that I was mentioning before. Mainly what you will see, for example, for CENS, you will see a mix of standards coming from ISO, coming from IEEE. For example, very likely there will be the P7003 on algorithmic bias. Very likely also the P7018 on LLMs, trustworthiness and security. And then Sense and Elect probably also will have some own contributions. I hope it's a large so in few minutes it's kind of tricky, but I think I gave the idea, right?
Yeah, you gave the idea, and it's a quite complex landscape.
Yeah, well, it's not really complex because there is also quite a bit of overlays, on, for example, there are ISO standards on bias, but IEEE standards on bias. So there is a lot of effort now for unifying so that normal people can really deal with that.
Exactly. The effort of harmonization will play a crucial role in helping organization in that. But, today, this morning, I was on a conference in the Responsible AI Summit, and there were two representatives of the European Commission. And they were saying that one of the most frequent misconception about the ISO 42001 is that it covers everything that you need to do about the UI Act. So Andrea, I'm here and I'm asking you, what do you think about it? Are there overlaps and synergies?
The answer is no, it's very easy. So it's not, there are two different things. The ISO 42001 is a non-binding standard and mainly is focused on AI management and governance within organizations. So tell you, okay, you are an organization, these are the things that you need to do. I mean, the EU AI Act is a binding regulation. You have extremely high fines if you don't comply, and somehow has a different cut also because really relates a lot on product safety and AI system compliance. So while the 4201 is a very good basis, starting basis is not enough. Let me just give you just some very quick examples in the minutes that we have. For example, the AI Act requires automatic logging for events over a system lifetime for traceability, but ISO 4201 encourages logging, but is much less detailed, and the organization has the flexibility of determining when to enable the record keeping, where disable, and that is so it won't be enough. I say, okay, I'm compliant with 4201 with respect to the EU AI Act. So it's very, very, very important to understand the differences. Same thing for risk management. The EU AI Act is much more prescriptive on risk management. And also, regarding technical documentation, human oversight, transparency, mainly tells the organization, okay, you need to do these things and implement them in the best way, but the UAI Act is very, very specific on that. And so, ISO 4201 has gaps with respect to the EU AI Act on product safety that is not mentioned, the prohibited practices. The EU AI Act is a risk model, that goes from a very low risk to extremely high risk, the red part of the pyramid for some of you that looked at the documentation. While also ISO 4201 has different requirements. For example, requires an AI policy, as I was mentioning before, and a strong leadership commitment, because that is the driving force inside the company. And of course, EU AI cannot force that. I want just to give you an idea, and I'm using here the framework that Modulos actually has developed to give a sense that the framework is based on atomic controls that need to be applied to verify compliance. And so you see here, between ISO 4201 and the EU AI Act, there are in common quite a bit of controls, so 60 controls, but there are 42 controls on one side and 30 controls on the other that are specific to ISO 4201 and the EU AI Act. I hope I was, again, fast and clear.
Excellent. And this is quite helpful because that will have large implications on the efforts of companies to comply with the UI Act if they can rely on using the standards and manage to exploit everything that is reusable amongst the standard and the UI Act. So thank you for pointing this out, Andrea.
And thanks God that there are platforms like Modulos and other that are coming out to help normal people, you know, that do not do only AI in their life to be able to go and apply it successfully in business.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So with this first part, we got a bit of an holistic and comprehensive overview of what the standard is about. But now we want to also get the practical flavor of what it takes to get certified against the standard. And it's where I'm going to ask Arman a few questions. And once again, I want to remind the audience that if you have any question for our two speakers, you can post them on LinkedIn, and I will be asking them at the end of the webinar. So Arman, from an auditor perspective, what would you say are the most important and most common challenges that they face when going about an audit and during the certification process itself? Can you shed some light on it?
So it's basically the first question that we also get from our clients and partners. In the end, the first question is that, so what it takes us through this journey? What are the first challenges that we face? And our first answer, and at the same time question to them, is that how much are they prepared for this journey? How much they know about this journey? And unfortunately, this ISO 42001 is quite new. It got published December 2023. It's less than a year old. And even though many companies, they already know about management system in general, they still don't know what are the nuances and differences, what are the tricks in AI management system, what are the differences between this AI management system and other management system that they already have in place. So lack of awareness about the requirements and controls in this ISO and how they are different from other ISOs is the first key point to address here. The other issue that we see in the first glance is lack of processes and documentation. And that's normal because now AI regulation is going to apply to many businesses. Before that, they were not in regulated sectors. For example, if you are talking about automotive, railway, they know, they healthcare, they know more about regulation than other companies that they have a software powered by AI. Their business is AI, and they're providing a software. So this regulation, going through this journey needs some certain practices that they are not used to. If you ask about the documentation of their processes, normally the AI developers, they think about documentation or commenting in a code, but that doesn't mean that they have a management system. They need to implement several steps, make sure that it's applied to their internal processes, and finally they see the benefit on their end product. So these two issues come from lack of preparedness and lack of understanding about this newly born ISO standards. The other main problem, key challenge, and again, that's the second topic when we discuss with our partners, clients to open up new project is how much does it cost us? How much human resources do we need? And of course, this is a complicated standard compared to 27001 series about information security and cybersecurity. It's actually more complicated, and it requires, of course, budget allocation, human resources, and we see that problem sometimes from the startups and SMEs. They like to step in the governance journey, but it's taking them some money and effort, human effort. Of course, AI governance platforms, one of which is the one provided by Modulos, I would say, it helps. Honestly, it helps to get some part of the job done by a platform that they guide them through these practices. Well, it doesn't mean that it can cut all the costs. No, there would be a cost. There would be still need for human expert to verify the steps that are taking their journey, but it's way better than starting blindside, knowing nothing about that. Then the budget allocation will be doubled. The human resources may not exist within the company. They need to go for the externals. They hire new people, and they today the AI audit and assessor experts are limited. This was the case like 10 years ago, for example, cybersecurity. We didn't have that. So the resources also, the expert resources are also limited. And this is one of the other challenges. The next challenge, integration with existing management systems and the procedures within a company normally happens in more established companies, that they already have a management system. They have maybe several different standards implemented, and now they want to add the AI flavor into their management system. The change management here is actually a tricky part. So they need to make sure that simply replacing keywords like cybersecurity with AI doesn't mean that they have now an AI management system. They need to make sure that in the end, they have a unified management system that addresses not only AI issues, but other risks that they have according to their business. The fourth challenge that we see, and actually this is kind of a funny one in my opinion, is the resistance to change within a company. There are several layers within a company, especially if you are big, that we see that they're reluctant to change. From managers that they don't believe still is mandatory. They see the issues, now they ask for the help, and then it will cost them more. To developers that in the end, maybe they are not the main decision makers, but they are the implementer to collect the evidence for a functional management system. And if they are not aware of the benefit of such management system, they won't do it willingly. They won't do it with high quality, and they need, again, the solution is to go through awareness sessions, like for example, this type of webinars. Even trainings are already there for this ISO, not a full week of training to show them how every single control should be implemented. But first, they need to understand why is it necessary. The last key challenge, I would say, there are of course more challenges, but the key challenge is ongoing monitoring and continuous improvement. This is actually a requirement for all other management systems, but the issue here is that the AI landscape, the AI world is actually more dynamic and fast-paced than other domains. Today's AI experts may not be expert tomorrow, and your management system is fruitful and productive, functional today, may need some changes tomorrow. So this again requires more investments and having established platforms and frameworks within the companies and within businesses according to their size, of course. A small company may need fewer layers and more abstract framework, but bigger companies, giant ones, of course, they need multiple layers to ensure the implementation of their AI management system is thorough and complete over time. So I try to also be on time, but excuse me if it's not.
That's perfect, Arman. No stress, and thank you very much. It sounds like it's not really a walk in the park, and that's a lot to be done. So it will essential to streamline and make the process as efficient as intuitive as possible. So can you go a bit more in detail now that we know the challenges and walk us through the critical steps, the timelines, the priorities, what organizations need to do now and what they can postpone, and give us a bit of detail of this during the process of a 42001 audit?
So of course, I can tell you a story and start this slide with a story. I try to be short. This ISO got published in December 2023, and 2 weeks after we got the first call for certification, and they wanted to have it done in 2 weeks. But the question was that, have you even implemented that? They thought that they are following the best practices, so they already have an AI management system. But obviously, after going through deeper conversations and discussions with them, we realized that no AI management system is implemented. So first, the implementation should be there. Of course, there are several stages and steps within this major phase that I will go through in the next slides. Once this AI management system is implemented, one of the key steps is to conduct an internal audit to figure out how the management system is going on. Is it functional? What are the gaps? What are the potential non-conformities that can be identified and addressed? Because if it's not addressed, if these non-conformities, these gaps are not addressed before you jump into the second main phase, it will cost more and more money. So it's better to do it internally, do the review, ask professionals to go over, use platforms that they guide them through pre-implemented controls that they can be easily tweaked and tuned according to the context of the business, so that they have an overall understanding of what they have done and if they are really ready to spend now their budget on the actual audit. The audit is also composed of several steps. It starts with preparation, including a gap analysis, a pre-assessment, identifying the scope of the assessment, identifying the business of the unit, a number of sites, how many people with which responsibilities are working there. And then it includes two major steps and stages. The first one is a thorough review of the documents. The processes in AI management system shall be documented. And this review, the review of these documents will be done at this stage 1, and according to that stage 2, which includes the actual on-site audits, will be planned. If everything is successful, we can move to the next step where minor gaps will be in the end addressed by the applicant, and hopefully they can finally get granted with a certificate for this standard. But the journey actually doesn't end up here. In the end, this is an ongoing journey. So once the applicant gets certified, doesn't mean that I'm certified and there is nothing else to do. Again, I refer to the last challenge, continuous monitoring and ongoing improvement. At least we shall bear in mind that every year there is a surveillance audit. If organizations, they want to maintain their certificate and validity of that, they need to go through the surveillance audit. It's a short project. It's like if imagine in the scale, if it takes 5 days of audit for the actual certification, the surveillance audit would be only 1 day, but it's necessary. So it's necessary to always think about changes, improving your management system. So let me now explain shortly about the timeline and key activities. This timetable is actually a little bit controversial because that doesn't apply to all business models, everything, but it's a very generic one, that how much it takes applicants, organizations to start their journey and they finish with a successful audit days. The first activity, and they can assume a month, again, highly depending on the size of the company, the business, if it's coming from a regulated sector or not, is the conducting a gap analysis to understand what they have today and what they should implement. For example, many think that since they have a cybersecurity management system, it's very easy to spend 2 months and get certified. It's not always the same case. Depending on the situation, the context, it may take more time. So the first step is that what we have today, what do you have today, and what needs to be implemented. The second phase is that now that we know the gaps, what needs to be implemented, there should be a plan for that. We cannot implement everything at the same time. For example, there should be first an AI policy. We should first understand who are the stakeholders of the company so that we can adjust other activities and controls according to the needs of the stakeholder, the context of the business, and the overall AI policy within a company. Then the actual implementation starts. Here, I believe there can be a lot of time saved if there is already a management system in place. Even though there are so many differences between AI management system and other management systems, but they have a certain level of overlap. Certain level of overlap in terms of different activities, how the operation go on, how the monitoring shall be done, how the planning should be performed. So they can save a lot of time if they already have a management system in place. But again, this could vary depending on the size of the company, the context of their business, and so on and so forth. As I aforementioned, having an internal audit is very important for them to understand where they stand today and if they're ready to engage an external audit like certification bodies like CertX. The timeline that I put here is like 3 months, but again, it all depends on the preparedness. If some major gaps are identified during the stage 1 audit or even in the preparation phase, that can go up to 6 months, a year, and so on and so forth. On the other hand, if everything is already thoroughly and comprehensively reviewed in their internal audit, and if they have tried their best to close all gaps, then that could be even shorter than 3 months. Usually after the audit stage 1 and stage 2 are done, there would be some time available for the applicant to address if there are some minor non-conformities and the gap, and hopefully after that they can be granted the certificate. At the bottom of this table, you see the continuous monitoring and improvement. This actually starts while you are just about to implement your AI management system, and it never ends. As long as you have a management system, this activity lives with your management system. Let me also, maybe I would be short here because I already explained most of the activities here. Picking up the phone, writing an email about you'd like to get certified to have a management system is the very first step. One of the critical stages to understand the scope of the certification, and that comes with understanding the context of the business, the number of people, the number of sites that you are working on or you want to get certified for that. And according to that, you will have an understanding of how much time and effort it takes during the audit. In the end, one of the other key elements here is that the certification body like us, we assign and allocate auditors, and the applicant has all the right to ask why these auditors are qualified. And I really advise applicants and organization to select those auditors that they have AI background. In the end, there are so many certification bodies here and there. They're active in different domains, but lack of an idea about AI risks, what AI means in an organization business is actually a key factor to have a successful audit. Again, as I mentioned, the next phase is to prepare for the audit, starting with a gap analysis and pre-assessment to identify if there is a major gap that prevents us to go further and actually start the stage 1 audit. And this is important because, for example, if there is no risk assessments and treatment within the company, if they have not thought about that, it's impossible to have a successful audit. So at CertX, at least, we prefer always to have this gap analysis to inform the applicant that you should have done this practice. And I think, again, if they take one step back and think about how they want to implement their management system, these controls would be obvious from the original document and through the AI governance platforms as the key steps to be taken, governing almost all other activities in implementing the AI management system. Audit stage 1 is all about comprehensively reviewing the documented processes, and according to that, the plan for stage 2 audit will be communicated to the applicant, where there will be an on-site we can call it interview with the key personnel, those people that they were involved in the management team. And the idea of stage 2 is to look for the evidence, of implementation, and if the controls are being successfully practiced and implemented within the AI management system. So I think this is all I can share at this stage. Of course, there are so many details about the critical steps, but I hope that the audience already got an overall idea about the critical ones.
Thank you, Arman. It was very comprehensive indeed. But, you know, I read myself the ISO 42001 a few times, and the first time, it's not that long. It sounded kind of reasonable and easy to me. But then I realized, you know, there's a lot of references to other standards, and then I went and clicked on those, and I was a bit like confused at this stage. So can you highlight what are the most important standards that ISO 42001 is referring to and that are relevant for its implementation?
Yeah. So let me start with the left figure. What is a management system, and what are different types? And then we end up with the latest one, ISO 40001. So there are so many different, when we talk about a management system, we want to have a unified management system that incorporates different standards according to the business model, according to the context, according to the stakeholders, and so on and so forth. One of which is the famous 9001 overall general quality management system. We have the cybersecurity one, and then in the end we have the AI management system. Again, I want to stress out the fact that having one of them doesn't mean that by Control F and replacing some keywords and replacing them with AI doesn't mean that we have an AI management system. There are specific controls in AI management system that we cannot find in other management system standards. And of course, there are some references, key references in this management system, AI management system, that are not found. And they didn't even exist at the time of publication of other management system from for example, ISO. As you truly mentioned, there are so many different references to other norms and standards. Many of them are developed and published by the Subcommittee 42, Artificial Intelligence, but not all of them. So there are some of the standards that are coming from other committees, like for example, governance of IT, and that would help you to understand how you can navigate through this journey. You see now a couple of these norms and standards. I believe Andrea already went through some of those, but I want to make a connection between this standard and other norms. For example, in ISO 24028, basically the idea of this one is to establish a common language between the organizations, the AI experts, non-experts, so that we understand when we talk about AI trustworthiness, what it means. When one of the requirements is to your management system, your AI system in general should be transparent, what exactly this transparency means. So basically, this one is not this ISO is not an ISO that you implement, but this ISO is that you need to read first and understand this language. Otherwise, there might be so many issues during the audit day. The audit team already have done their homework. They know about these terms, and there will be some miscommunication. And this ISO basically help you to understand the basics. Even though I know that many people are data scientists, AI engineers, machine learning scientists, and so on and so forth, still understand the common language of AI trustworthiness, I believe, is actually key. The second ISO provides you with a framework to implement your AI system in general. And having that one, following the practices and guidelines provided by this ISO, helps you to have a smoother journey in implementing AI management system. The other one that is very important, actually, we have some sections dedicated to that in AI Management System 42001 is the impact assessment. This ISO standard basically elaborates what are the key steps when you want to do an AI system impact assessment. In the end, ISO 22989 is all about this one. Let me see if the number is correct. You can confirm it's correct. Yeah. So I want to wrap it up faster. So ISO 22989, ISO 23894, and ISO 38507. They collectively help you to understand the nuances that you need to follow and you need to take note of when you want to implement your AI management system. It's starting from governance implication of AI systems. So before that, and this governance of AI implication on the AI businesses is coming from another committee. It's coming from governance of IT, which basically tells organization what shall be done. And there are so many other requirements in this ISO, but the overall message here is that when you have ISO 42001, you can take the controls here, and we always advise the applicants to cross-check, because ISO 42001, we believe, is one of the most complicated standards. It includes cybersecurity, it includes governance of IT, and there is actually one term in one part of this standard that any other controls that might be applicable to the context of the organization shall be considered. So this is actually a key message here. Following all the controls is the bare minimum that people should do. But they need to also always keep in mind that I have implemented everything, all the controls that are mainly about AI implications and the risk. And we have actually a nice ISO here to guide you through the risk assessment, management, and treatment of AI. But this is not all the end of the journey. So you need to consider other concepts because of that sentence, that phrase within this standard. Other controls may be necessary, and this is one of the challenges that we have. We go through an audit session, controls are there, and in the end we realize that they also have cybersecurity really tied to AI, but they have not addressed that. That implies that they have not addressed and closed the gap for the AI management system, because it does not address the risk involved in AI tied to cybersecurity. I hope that I was clear, but we can have follow-up questions, of course.
There are already a couple. The first one, I would, Arman, if you can stop sharing. So
sure.
The public can see you guys. The first question we have on the chat comes from Luca Baldassarre, and he's asking it on the topic of risk management. So the question is if the ISO 23894 on AI risk management also covers the EU AI Act requirements. I was on a conference, I heard the conference by the European Commission, and they were telling that risk management is quite of disputed topic, whether the ISO is in the same chain of thought as the European Commission. What is your opinion here, Andrea? Andrea, we cannot hear you. Andrea, you're muted, I think.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. I was saying, hi, Luca, nice to hear from you. Well, you're right, Elena, that is quite a debate. I would say the short answer is no. And because there are somehow two different beasts. No, the ISO, as I was saying before, the ISO is a technical spec. No, so it is a technical standard, has a voluntary guidelines for organization and individual on how to manage AI risk. I would say it's more a best practice document. It's not a legal document. It's not binding. The AI Act, as I was saying before, is binding. So you don't comply, you are in trouble. No, so that is the very first comments. The second comment is that the ISO 23894, it is a comprehensive framework. But I would say, if you're familiar with the ISO 31000, it's it stems from there. It evolves. Look at the technical aspects as well as ethical and society and safety risk. But the UAI Act has a completely different model. It's a risk model. Again, I was mentioning the pyramid with the green and red on the top, and the notion of risk, between the two frameworks is different. ISO has a technical approach. It looks at AI performance, and so the risks are related to the performance of the AI. But the UAI Act looked at individuals and societies, which is kind of different, different things. That doesn't mean the ISO spec is not helpful. It's a good starting point, but there are other pieces that need to be put in place, as Amran was saying before. You need more control. And also, I want to say another thing. The scope is also different. ISO is an international standard, so it applies worldwide. The UAI Act is legislation that is specific to the European Union, and so has a lot of specific elements that are, I would say, regional. That it's like GDPR, I would say. That there are a lot of implications also for the rest of the world, because they need to be, of course, compliant, but as the notion of regional aspects that ISO, by definition, shouldn't have. But the short answer is, does it fulfill? No, it doesn't. More on that. I would need an hour to go over, all the articles and the differences and so on. But the answer is no.
Unfortunately, we don't have another hour. Arman, do you want to also make a quick comment? Because then we have a last question that is more for you. But if you want to chip in into this one.
Just very, very briefly, this ISO norm, the name starts with guidance on risk management. Of course, it's a very helpful source to be studied, to think about the steps to be taken, their guidance, but that doesn't mean that it has full coverage of what EUA Act mandates for having a risk management system. But it's definitely, I would say, today, unfortunately, this is what we have. This is one of the fewest sources that we have to walk us through how risk management for the AI should be done, but it's not enough. There are so many different aspects that needs to be taken into account in order to ensure that compliance with the EUA Act is there at your office.
And if I can add, let's see what CEST and ELEC will produce. They were supposed to produce the spec, by September. I think there are delays from what I heard, and they are supposed not to cover the gaps, so that there is a set of controls that you can apply quite safe. There is a nice GRC report actually that analyzes the ISO standards with respect to UAI Act. I think it's available on internet for free.
I want to actually add a fun fact. So CEST and ELEC could easily agree on adoption of the data quality series coming from the same subcommittee of ISO. It was quite straightforward. They sat together, they discussed, they opened a vote for that, and they actually adopted 4 or 5 parts of the data quality series, the best practices or even requirements. But on the 42001 risk management and so on, they have still problem. And and it's obvious, as Andrea clearly mentioned, if they want to say this ISO 42001 is enough as it is, they are now not addressing some critical aspects. Logging and record keeping in 42001 is not as comprehensive as it shall be.
For example, it's just
as an example, yes, of course.
Thank you, guys. As usual, very complete answers. I have another question from Ina, which I'll try to rephrase a bit because there's a couple of typo maybe. So she's saying that in her opinion, maybe ISO and other frameworks are organizational measures that can be used to demonstrate accountability of the AI Act. So I guess she goes again into these synergies between the standards and AI Act. Any final remark on that?
So basically, in the end, there are different requirements and obligations according to where you stand in the pyramid. It's the famous pyramid based on the risk approach that the EA Act is taking. So if you're high risk, if your AI systems is identified as high risk, there are certain requirements. If you are limited risk, transparency requirements, and if there is minimal risk, there is actually no obligation, and the code of conduct can be applied. For the high risk systems, those systems, AI systems that are identified as high risk, a mandatory conformity assessment shall be done. This conformity assessment is done through notified bodies. Notified bodies are those that they have gone through some several stages and phases, and they have shown their competence for AI assessments to the European Commission, and they get this label of being a notified body for AI. Today, we do not have a clear definition of who will be a notified body. If you refer to the timeline of what the EU Commission, EU AI office needs to do, is actually one of them is have a clear definition of who will be an AI notified body, so that organization can refer to. And then there is actually now an ISO standard being developed with actually it's a joint work between ISO standard and ISO committee and CEST and ELEC. It's about how to do actually conformity assessment. What would the overall framework of conformity assessment? For the part, for example, the part that it requires auditing, for example, for management system, what should be included in that? If you have a product, an actual product, a camera enabled by computer vision and AI system and so on, how we can assess that, how that should be tested and inspected. So they are actually now building this framework, introducing it in a new ISO node, and I know that's a joint working group. So this also enables certification bodies like us, and then after which we get our notified body label, then we can also serve. Today, I know still that many businesses, they go through the actual assessment and audit, not because EU AI office knows the labels, knows the attestation or certificate that they provide, but to build trust first within their own business, and then build a trust between themselves and their clients. It would be anyhow useful. And I believe that since it's a long journey, it would take, I show you the timetable for the management system itself. It takes actually, if you start today, maybe in a year, you can have a successful certificate, depending on the situation. If you are already well established, if you have everything, maybe less or even more if you are not. But the message is that you should start today. People should start today to establish or to walk through this compliance journey.
Thank you very much, Arman. And you answered also the following question that was about how long it takes for readiness to the ISO 42001. We understand it's a long journey. It will be longer or shorter according to how your organization is already set up, what is the initial gap. And on that note, I want to close with maybe a remark on how an organization like Modulos can help you to make this certification the most frictionless and speedy as you could. We are actually the first company to have achieved and to have received a certification of product conformity to the requirement of the ISO 42001. And Arman, correct me if I'm wrong, that means that if a company pursues the ISO 42001 via the Modulos platform, will come to you as an auditor with the zero initial gap, such that you can start the audit, making sure all the requirements have been at least covered. And then your job is that of evaluating that the evidence provided is enough to actually fulfill those requirements. Also, we played a huge effort to try to specify the different controls in an atomic manner and make them reusable across frameworks. And that will facilitate organization undertaking the standard route to, at the same time, make progress in their compliance journey to other frameworks, such the AUI Act. So guys, thank you so much for today. Thank you for providing Andrea a very holistic overview of what the standard is about, and thanks Arman for the more practical framework and insights on what organization can do. And thank you to all of you for listening. If you are interested in our webinar, please follow our page on LinkedIn or go to our website, www.modulos.ai, and I'm looking forward to see you on one of our next webinars. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Elena.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Have a nice day.